All right, guys, today we're going to be adding our smaller details to our African masks. So last time we made the face and then we also did our big details first. And then today we're gonna do all those fun little details like we looked at in the real African masks. So we're gonna be using our scraps from the scrap bin again. And then I've also got some shape punchers in geometric shapes. And then if you need to, we can also use the stencils again for eyes, lips, and mouth. And I'll show you some fun ways you can use that on your mask. So remember, whatever you make on one side, you're gonna try to make it symmetrical or the same on the other side. So for example, if I start by adding a smaller circle to one eye, so like this, then I would need to do the same thing to the other eye, like this. And it doesn't have to be the same color, but we want it to be at least the same shape. Something else you can do is use the stencil tracers. So I use this shape for the eye. I think on mine, I actually want to make it look like it has eyelids. So I'm going to pick a color and I'm going to trace my stencil. And then if I cut this in half, just like I did with the lips, then I have two shapes that I can make like eyelids on my mask. So you can also add details, like larger details on the mask again if you want. So I would kind of like a triangle shape right here on the forehead, and I need to make it this same curve as my mask. So kind of like when we did our two-tone mask, I'm gonna trace the top of my head where I want the triangle to go. So and then I'm going to make this part with two diagonal lines so it will look like a triangle when it's on my mask. So something else you can do is cut your shapes without a paper punch. So for example, triangles are really easy to cut. All you have to do is cut a square or a small rectangle, and then cut that in half, corner to corner, and then you have two triangles. So remember, we saw a lot of triangles and squares in the real African mask that we looked at. So that's an easy way we could add triangles and squares on our masks. And then one more thing that you could do with a stencil is you could create something like eyelashes that uses the same shape as the stencil. So I'm going to trace just the top of my eye stencil. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. And then I could make a line kind of underneath it like that. And then I could draw rectangles on the top. Okay, so then when I cut it out, it will be like a little eyelash I can put on top of my eyes. Like that. You could also put this underneath if you want it to look like your eyes are closed. So the last thing you can do if you want is add things that are coming off the side. So if you want like ears or even like feathers on the top of the head, you can use your paper, put it behind your mask like this. So just like we did for making things that fit on the top. And then you can sketch out where it would go. So I'm gonna do some feathers on the top. So I'm gonna put my paper behind the top of the head. And I'm gonna sketch out where I want my feather to be. Okay, so then when I cut it out, then I'm gonna glue my feather behind my mask like this. So I don't wanna glue it on top because it's gonna cover up my design that I'm working on. So I'm gonna put glue on my paper and then put my mask on top. And you can also fold your paper for this just like we did with other things. So this time I want 2 yellow feathers. So I've got my paper folded. Okay, and then I've got 2 yellow feathers. Okay, so I've got all these little scraps now that I'm ready to clean up. If you have scraps that are big enough that someone else could use, you can return this to the scrap bin. If you have scraps like these that are really small and cannot be reused, then you can put these in the recycling bin.